Ever written CSS and wondered, why isn't this style applying? You change the colors, but nothing happens. You added class, but the styles don't show up. Well, CSS has rules, not just the ones you write, but a secret set of rules that decide which styles win when there is a conflict. It's called cascading and specificity. And if you don't understand it, CSS will feel like a mystery. But don't worry, by the end of this video, you will know exactly how CSS decides which styles to apply, and you will never have to guess again. Let's dive in. All right, so first of all, as you can see here, I just have two elements, and if you check my file, it's it's an h1 and a paragraph tag, and this is my CSS file. I'm going to link it. Okay, link index.css. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to center this h1 and make it large. I'm also going to center this or not, but make it large as well. So the h1 text align center. Then the font size, I'm going to use 4RAM. Refresh it, and there we go. Then for the paragraph tag, I am going to first of all give it a font size. Font size of say 3RAM. All right, there we go. So for my first example, I'm going to talk about cascading. Cascading. All right, so this is what we are working with. Cascading. All right. So these two are just generic setup. They're not the main thing we are working with. This is what we want to do right now. So if I give my paragraph tag a color of red, okay, red. Then I go below it and I give it a color of blue. Observe that it turns blue despite the fact that I gave it red. This is where cascading comes in. If a rule is declared first under an say an element selector or a selector of any choice, and that same rule and that same selector is used with that same property or rule, it is the one that comes after CSS favors. The one that comes after. So there's a tug of war in between these two, and CSS decides to favor the one that comes after because they are basically the same thing. And it just chooses to style or represent the style with the one that comes after. So if I decide another one and I give this one, say I give it green, it's going to go green. If I go down again and I give it yellow, or yes, yellow, it's going to go yellow, and so on and so forth. So it's the one that comes last that it's what CSS comes represents on the web page or the website. That is how cascading works. So if the same selector which has the equal amount of strength, or in this case specificity, yes, the same selector is used more than once, it is the one that comes after, or the last to come is the one that is actually represented on the web page. All right, so that's all to cascading. It's as simple as that. All right, now, okay, let me just expand this so we can see clearly. Now I'm going to do something else. Now I'm going to give this same paragraph tag a class of text. Then I'm going to go into my CSS file. Then just above the paragraph tag, I'm going to set that text and give it a color of blue. As you can see here, our paragraph tag still has a color of yellow from our past rule, which I have cleared out. It's no longer there. But what do you think is going to happen now when I refresh this button? We have one element selector, a p tag, which is red, which has a color of red, and we have a class which we have applied to this paragraph tag, which gives a color of blue, and the paragraph tags comes after. So what do you think is going to happen here? Is it going to be a red color or blue when I refresh? Voila, it's blue. Now, what is happening here is what we like to call specificity. I hope I pronounced that well in CSS. Even though the paragraph tag comes afterwards, you can see here when I highlight it, there's this helper tag. It's called selector specificity. Now, when a class and a paragraph comes into clash, that is, they are targeting the same element. When a element selector and a class comes into clash and they are targeting the same tag, the class has a higher specificity. If I click on this, you can see that it has a specificity of 10. That is the one is on the 10 units, but this, it has a specificity of 1 rather. So this one has a much higher specificity than this, so it will take prevalence in this situation. It is the one that will be rendered despite the fact that the paragraph tag comes afterward. Whether it comes afterward or it comes before, in this case it doesn't really matter. We are still going to get blue. So that's what specificity is. And if we have this same text class, if I decide to bring it down here and call it again, and this time give it green, you will see that now these two have an equal specificity of 2 equal strengths, but this one comes afterward. So this is where the cascading comes into play. It comes afterwards. So that means this one would take prevalence and our paragraph tag will be green, as you can see now. So that is it's a simple concept, but a very important concept actually. So we've concluded that the element as element selector has a specificity of 1. The class has a specificity of 10. Now I'm going to show you another one, which is the ID selector. The ID. Let's give this an ID of text as well. Now this can be anything, doesn't have to be text. And let's give it green. We've done green before. Let's pick something unique. Something beautiful. Purple. Okay, I have some options here. Why not pink? All right, pink. Pink it is then. And I go here and give it an ID of text. So now we have 3 things targeting the same tag: a paragraph, an element tag, an element selector, which is the paragraph, a class, and an ID. Which one do you think is going to take prevalence in this case? Well, if you guessed the ID, you guessed right. As you can see, it has turned pink. I hope you can see this. Let me increase the font size so we can get a better view of it. Oh no, that's my, okay, 8. Let me refresh. All right, so you can see that it takes a size, the color of pink. Now, if we check the specificity of the paragraph, you can see that it's 100. The ID, actually, the specificity of the ID selector is 100, which is greater than the class, which is 10, and which is in turn greater than the element selector, which is 1. So this is what we have come to know as specificity in CSS. Specificity in CSS. So when we are writing designs, you might wonder, I did a video a while back on CSS, and I tried to like implement some things, and some class did not reflect. So in this sense, it's all about specificity. It's all about specificity. Then the last one I'm going to talk about is inline. It's inline CSS inline styles. Now we've established that the strongest one here is ID, which has a specificity of 100, and we know that the ID selector is unique for each, which makes more sense that it has a higher specificity in this case. Now we are going to try something else. We're going to try to style this thing inline. Now style, and we're going to give it a color of brown. I think I'll take brown. I don't think we've done brown before, or something similar to brown. No, we have not. Now that we've styled it in line and the color of brown, what do you think this is going to give us? What do you think it's going to give us? Is it going to be just guess? And if I refresh this, you can see that the brown has taken prevalence. Typically, element and pseudo element have a specificity of 1. Then class, attribute selector, and pseudo classes have a specificity of 10. Then ID 100, inline styles 1000. So inline CSS actually has a specificity of 1000. So it is likely to come up first. So when you are styling with CSS and you realize that some styles aren't working while some are working, you just have to do it in a way that has a stronger specificity. You can try um, including a class. If that doesn't work, then include an ID. There are so many ways you can do just to make sure that it has a higher specificity, because I don't really recommend inline CSS unless you really have to do it. I think most times when you separate your CSS, it's usually clean, and it makes your code clean and just polish. So most times I don't recommend inline CSS, but just know that inline CSS has a high specificity of 1000, which supersedes each of this one. So when you do this in your external CSS and you still have something inline, CSS will take prevalence to this one first before any other one. So that's all we have on specificity and cascading. I hope this video was very helpful to you. If it was, which I hope it was, please like this video and subscribe, and see you next time on my next upcoming video soon. Thank you.